Welcome back, you guys. Behind me is the 2025 Mazda CX-50. It's got stiff competition, the Honda CR-V and Mitsubishi Outlander, not to mention the RAV4 here in the compact SUV segment. But the hybrids, that's where Mazda has been lacking with the CX-50, but that changes because this has the hybrid system from the Toyota RAV4. That's right, they had to team up, join forces to compete with the Honda CR-V. Let's find out which one's best. All right, so yeah, the CR-V is bringing tough competition, so Mazda had to step their game up. Toyota owns a share in Mazda, and that's why under the hood is a Toyota hybrid system. Through and through, you pop the hood, the engine cover says Mazda. They're trying to trick you. A little bit of shenanigans going on there. They actually did a pretty good job. I spent, I don't know, maybe 2-3 minutes trying to find a Toyota logo or badge anywhere. I couldn't. 2.5 liter naturally aspirated inline 4 versus the 2 liter in the Honda, and that's paired with a 3-motor hybrid system. So effectively, one of the motors is primarily there just to start the engine. It's really quiet, unnoticeable on startup. And then there's 2 more. There's one in the rear for the rear axle, and there's another one in the front. Total system output is 219 horsepower and right around 163 pound-feet of torque across a huge range. Now, of course, that's between those electric motors and the gasoline-powered engine. So in certain circumstances, the gas engine will directly power the wheels, and in other circumstances, it will simply act as a generator. Do you hear that? There is a lot of noise coming from up front. This one, yes, has an eCVT, just like the CR-V, although the CR-V does one crucial thing that this system will not do. If you go watch my CR-V hybrid review, you can see it actively banging off the rev limiter as it shifts gears. And it's quite convincing. It just adds that little extra layer of driver enjoyment, which the CX-50 doesn't have. This setup here, the engine, is noticeably louder than the CR-V. The CR-V's refinement with the hybrid system, the engine, and just how quiet it is a little bit better. I mean, it's noticeably better in that car. Not to say this isn't really good. Again, we're talking about 2 of the best. There is a plus-minus symbol down here on the gear selector. So that plus and minus symbol would allude to the fact that you can change gears. But what happens is there's just kind of a change in the engine note for a split second. Does not sound good. Not only that, but at low speeds, if you've got passengers, tell them to shut up, turn down the music. If I'm paying attention, I can feel the changeover between EV mode, and then it switches over to the gasoline-powered engine. But there is a changeover. I can feel the changeover. Now, the brakes, on the other hand, are really good. I cannot feel the changeover between regen braking and the real brakes. And that changeover I felt, I was mentioning, between EV and the engine switching on, you only really feel that at low speeds. If you're in a more high torque scenario, you're going to overtake, you don't really feel it. All in all, it is a smooth hybrid system. It's easy to drive. You don't have to think about it. And it's got good torque. Put it in power mode. There are 3 driving modes, just like the standard car: power, normal, and trail. There's not much of a difference in power mode in how the hybrid system operates. You'll still get the same fuel economy. It just makes the torque a little bit more responsive. So that's how I just drive the car all the time. Now, the rest of the CX-50, nothing else has really changed, and that's awesome. The steering just as good as the standard CX-50. Dynamically, the CX-50 is my favorite compact SUV. It's just confident in the corners. The steering's incredibly smooth. It's not artificial feeling. Now, we do gain about 250 pounds here, despite the increase in fuel economy. If you're not pushing the car on a dry road, you'll never notice. What you might notice if you step outside the CX-50 is the body is a little bit different here. So this actually sits about 35 millimeters, 3.5 centimeters, or about 1.5 inches taller than the standard CX-50, and that's simply because of the batteries. Now, if you look closely, the black plastic cladding around the wheel wells, that's actually a little bit larger. Now, you would think, hey, maybe you have a little bit more ground clearance. You don't. It's it just sits taller, and then the floor of the vehicle is just at basically the same height. So it looks a little bit more like an SUV. So looking at a standard CX-50, it's a little bit nicer, but I just love the way this thing looks. It's got those fender flares versus the CR-V, which I also think is a great looking vehicle. Same with the RAV4, but you guys tell me. I don't know, CX-50 is just the best looking to me. It's got the best proportions. This one has 1 inch smaller wheels as well, 19s versus 20s, so that probably contributes to the ride quality. It's good, it's smooth. Does the CR-V ride maybe a little bit nicer, a little bit smoother? Yeah, but unless you're driving them back to back, you'll never notice. Gauge cluster's slightly different. I love what Mazda does with the gauge cluster here. It's an all digital display, other than the actual needles, which are physical, awesome, and then the rings around. It's, you know, Mazda gets it, and this to me at least trickles up from the, or I guess maybe trickles down from the MX-5, like that lineage of tactile feel, while of course this doesn't have a manual or anything like that, but it carries over little things like that that give the car just more feel, and that carries into the interior. We've got the stitching on the dash, on the doors. A lot of people don't like it. I love it. These seats are great. Two-way lumbar on the driver's seat. It's got a bunch of controls, memory controls, of course, and the passenger seat also goes up and down. The CR-V, why I mentioned that, is the CR-V does not. Heads-up display. This has a great heads-up display. Of course, you've got stop-and-go radar cruise control, which the CR-V does have, but it does not have that heads-up display, which is huge. In here, we also have the pano roof. It adds a little bit more sunlight into the cabin, which is nice. And the CR-V still does not offer that. It also does not have ventilated seats. This has a 360 cam. The CR-V does not have a 360 cam on any trim level. Infotainment, overall, they're both really responsive systems. The CR-V does not yet have the new huge display that the Accord does. It's still really good there. The difference here is the screen's still really far away, which visually I like way better. The dash and the design in the CX-50 caters to my preferences more. Like it's too far to reach almost for a touch screen, and you can use it as a touch screen, but down here, I mean, climate control, they're both really good. They both have physical buttons, which is awesome. Mazda still keeps the volume knob. Tons of great materials on the interior. Bose 12-speaker sound system. It's got the surround sound. Great system, great materials, leather trimmed surfaces, you know, where it counts. And you might be thinking, hey, Marcus, how do you stuff a battery into a CX-50 without compromising the interior space? And well, the answer is there is a slight compromise to interior space. Not up front here. We have the same amount of headroom, legroom, all that stuff. In the rear, a little bit less headroom and a little bit less legroom. Not only that, but behind the second row cargo space, a little bit less cargo space. I mean, it's really nothing. You look at the specs, slightly less. There's still a ton of room back there, USB-Cs, heated seats back there, and the CX-50 has a full spare tire and wheel setup, whereas the CR-V Hybrid does not. On the flip side, the CR-V overall has more cargo space. That's just a sacrifice of looking cool. Now, if you're concerned with towing, this hybrid will only tow 1,500 pounds. It's decent, but just compared to the NA 2.5 liter model, that can tow up to 2,000 pounds, and the turbo version can tow up to 3,500 pounds, which is a ton. So if you're concerned about towing, just don't get the hybrid. Don't get a hybrid, especially the CR-V Hybrid can only tow 1,000 pounds. So even this has that beat. We've got a useless button. EV mode. It's completely useless. I've tried it in multiple scenarios. You hit EV mode, like right now, EV mode, temporarily unavailable. Why? No idea. Sometimes it'll say because it's due to speed, so you can't actually go into EV mode. I can't force the car into EV mode if we're above 30 kilometers an hour. And okay, we gotta really slow down for that. There we go, EV mode. So I can accelerate a little bit. EV mode canceled due to acceleration level. I am like 5% on the throttle, barely accelerating. So that would be a fun game, actually. Put it in EV mode. How far can you get before the car kicks you out? The 2.5 liter, especially the turbo engine, has a nice growl to it, and of course it's a 6-speed auto, so you get those kind of engaging gear shifts, which out on a twisty road, it's a little bit more fun. It's just a little bit, well, the turbo is a lot more engaging than this, but even the NA car is a little bit more engaging. Dynamically, it's just a little better than the CR-V. It's more fun to drive, despite the fact it's got a CVT, which sucks most of the fun out of the CX-50. Like, it puts a huge damper on the amount of fun on a back road you're gonna have in the CX-50. If you watched my original CX-50 turbo review, it is the best compact SUV on a back road, hands down. It's something to know. The CR-V isn't too far behind in dynamics. It's still very smooth, but the CX-50 is a noticeably better car for drivers, for people who enjoy a good hustle on the back road. That's, what a terrible way to put that. So cringe, but that's what it is. I don't know. What do you guys call it when you go for a Sunday drive? And for the money, you really just have to decide where you're going to put your money, right? So let's get down to price. This starts at $43,000 Canadian. This one, as tested, $51,000 Canadian, which is the exact same price you can get a CX-50 Turbo GT for. And that has almost double the amount of torque that this has. But the fuel savings here are substantial. This gets an average of 38 miles per gallon, or 6.2 liters per 100 kilometers, versus 28 miles per gallon in the standard naturally aspirated CX-50. So huge jump in fuel economy. If saving money and saving fuel, if you're in the city, I mean, this is the no-brainer. The CX-50 Turbo doesn't get great fuel economy. Having not driven the RAV4, I can't comment which I would rather drive, but I mean, the CX-50 to me is just a nicer place to be than the CR-V. Not by much, but those additional features that the CX-50 has that the CR-V does not could be a game changer for you guys. One of the best hybrid compact SUVs, period. And it's just missing that last little bit of refinement from the engine. Thanks guys for watching. Like the video, it really helps us out. If you want to, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you soon.